Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to our webinar from Inbox to Insight. I'm Gina. I lead the product marketing here at Sedna. I would like to thank everyone that took part in our survey, and also thank you for submitting your questions that helped us essentially shape our webinar today. A few things before we start. You will notice that your microphones are muted and your cameras are off. If you have any questions during the session, please pop them into the Q&A box below. We are aiming to run for about 45 minutes of session today, and we will leave some time for questions at the end. And also, please note that we are recording today, but you will get the link after the session. Now, the person who's actually going to show you everything today is Rob. Rob Dickey is our Senior Product Manager for Sedna AI. And if you've been in any of our early access conversations, you've likely already spoken to him. Rob has lived with this product longer than anyone, and he's definitely one of our experts here at Sedna. So I'll hand it over to you, Rob. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Gina. So hey folks, I'm Rob, one of the product managers here at Sedna. So as Gina mentioned there, I've been leading kind of our product initiatives on the AI front. So I may have spoken to some of you already. You may have kind of had conversations with me about these features, maybe some others in the past. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to run through the session and give you a general understanding of the features. I know that these are relatively new features to some people. And also, this might be the first time you've interacted with a tool like this, or you might be an expert already. So what I want to try and establish from today is that everyone has the shared understanding of what the Sedna AI Assist features can do. Most importantly, how do we get reliable results out of them? You may have heard of things like hallucinations and kind of other terminology that goes with these kind of AIs. And whilst they're getting kind of rarer and the capabilities are improving, there are certain techniques that you can use to make sure that you get as close to accurate results as possible every time. So I'll go through some of those best practices. We're also going to walk through a few examples of maritime specific workflows. So the things that we're kind of hearing and seeing from our customers using this, where they're getting some good kind of results out of the product. And then also we'll touch on things like the composer. So to be super clear as well, when we talk about AI Assist, it's not just our chatbot features, but there's also a composing element to that too. So the chat helps you search and surface content and context from your email. And then the composer helps you to write better emails and faster as well. And then finally, thank you to everyone who submitted a question. We are going to run a segment at the end called the Prompt Clinic. So we'll look at those specific ones that folks ask. And I really appreciate you taking the time to send those in. I just want to caveat as well, the session I'll run today is in a demo system. So this is in a Sedna demo environment. So whilst the content will look like maritime content, it is synthetic. It's not real world information. So you'll have to kind of use a bit of your kind of imagination about how would this work for your email. If I was asking this question of my business, what would I expect to see? And of course, as we're running through these prompts today, you can feel free to kind of have your Sedna screen open, run similar versions. If you're using the AI Assist features today, see what kind of results you're getting yourself. I do want to start the session with kind of a bit of, some ground truths because there's a lot of kind of confusion and complexity around like different kinds of AI capabilities. And I want to just really answer that first question of like, how is this different to things like Copilot or Claude or, ChatGPT, the tools that you might be using today, either in your personal life or maybe even in your business world as well. You're kind of starting to explore these things. There's a lot of nuance and complexities, a big spectrum of capabilities. So I'll just summarize the key differences here. And obviously, as you get to use the feature, you'll see how this then lends itself into the kind of answers that you get. So tools like ChatGPT and Claude, if you use them, if you're just kind of using the basic versions, they only have the context of what you put into them. So whatever you type or paste in. So they're only using what you kind of feed them effectively. If you have tools like Copilot in your business and you've connected those to things like your Exchange or your Outlook or other business systems today, they may feel richer and more connected. And of course, we're seeing some really great results with folks who connect those tools to their other tool stack. But particularly in the case of email, they generally can only access things like your personal inbox. They're great kind of personal tools. They don't have access to that kind of shared context throughout your kind of email history. Additionally, there's no kind of maritime vocabulary kind of underpinning all of that context. So these models are trained on maritime content, but there's nothing to say that like this particular word here is a vessel name or is a port name or that kind of context. It's harder for the inference to work. So mistakes can be made when you're kind of using these vanilla tools to try and ask very specific maritime questions. And also, if you've tried to connect these tools with, your existing data sets, your vessel lists, your VMS, your, port information, it can be quite tricky to do that. So, we're going to talk about how we, providing that kind of capability as default and then the benefits you get from that. And of course, these tools are fantastic for general like personal productivity. But we find that, the way that we're approaching the Sedna Assist features, we're trying to give you a bit more of a kind of out the box maritime specific experience here. So just to kind of talk about what Sedna AI Assist is, it can search all of your Sedna email archive. So if you have all of your content in the kind of the shared mailboxes in Sedna today, Sedna AI Assist has immediate access to all of that. So if you are, one of those ones who uploaded 10 years of history, the AI Assist can go and search across that entire history as well. We've baked in maritime specific terminology, so vessel names, ports, what kind of different lexicon, laytime, laycan, demurrage, those sorts of things mean. So the chat has a real good grasp on like the maritime workflow already. We've also connected it to known good data sources in industry. So you'll hear us talk a lot about Lloyd's List intelligence. We have the ability to access their vessel data, their AIS positions, and other information from their sources. So rather than the machine try and kind of make up something or use stale information that might be in the email, it's also capable of grabbing information from known good external sources and bringing that back to you in the chat. And the answers are always grounded in your data, right? So we always give you references back to the email that it came from, a search that shows you everything that the chat used to make its response. So you have that context to click away. So you have that kind of trust element. You're not just kind of working on things that like, maybe the machine decided it wanted to put in there, or maybe it kind of misconstrued from something else. And just to recap again, we built this for shipping. So this is built for a shipping audience specifically. It's trained as such, and it's not like an adapted version, on that basis. So, that just kind of cements the difference between what tools you may be using today and what we're intending to give you in terms of what the AI Assist features can do. I want to talk also because a lot of the questions that came in were around like, can it do this? Or, I want it to search my documents and things like that. So I want to be super clear about like what you can do today, what we're working on, and what you can expect to do in the coming kind of weeks and months. But I also want to be really clear about what we're not going to do. I think this is like one of the interesting parts of these tools. They show so much potential, but there are things they're really not good at. And we need to be clear about like what your expectations should be around those as well. So live now, as I'll show you in a couple of minutes, we have the email search, we have the vessel data lookup, a few features that we've made as well. Catch Me Up will show you how that works. That can go and find your messages that you're tagged on and unread comments and things like that. We've given you access to the Sedna Help Center through the chat as well, so you can go and ask questions about how to use the product. And then, of course, the AI composer. So not just about kind of searching and getting the context from information, but also then composing and writing your own, structured emails on that basis as well. Coming soon. So just to kind of give you a sense of, whilst we're doing the demo today, you can rest assured that we're working tirelessly on improvements. And these are all, based around the feedback we're getting from you, the users, and obviously the direction that the market and the technology is moving in. So expect some improvements to the search capabilities, particularly time filters. We've seen that people are really kind of interested in being very specific about time. So we'll talk a bit about that. Mobile access is coming in the next few weeks as well. So everything you see today, you can expect to be able to use on the go as well in a few weeks' time. Docs and attachments, this is probably the biggest request that we're getting at the moment. At the minute, Sedna's AI Assist is able to reason over all of your kind of email content, but the documents and attachments aren't quite there yet. We're working hard to make sure we add the support to those as well. And then similarly, further down the line, integrations with your key tools, so the VMS tools, your prefixture module, if you're using that in the Sedna platform as well. So you can then ask more data-driven questions around the information. And then the final thing is proactive notifications. So we want to get to a state where you can ask the tool to tell you about things happening and changing. And those are kind of just a small look ahead to what's coming. In terms of what we're not going to do, and this is what I just want to be super clear on, is these LLMs, that they're great at kind of reasoning over large sets of text and data. They're not so great at number crunching, right? And we wouldn't encourage you to use them as pure kind of, calculation tools and dashboarding tools. So I just want to be super clear. It's not replacing your dashboards, your BI tools. You'll still need to use those. You'll still need to have good kind of validation on the kind of the outputs and the data that come from it. Automation. So there's some questions around like, will it automatically, do this task and route this email and send this thing out? This tool is not intended to do that. And we may solve that in different ways in the future, but right now we're focusing on just giving you like the best quality kind of information, expediting kind of experience in the product. External market data as well. There's some questions around, can I, make different kind of market reports and insights from it? To an extent, yes, but we're not really thinking of using this as kind of an intelligence kind of tool at this stage. So, if that's your kind of need for these things, you're going to be best off doing that somewhere else for now. And similarly, things like approval workflows, again, you can't interact with other kind of teams and counterparties in the tool. You're not able to kind of push around like a piece of information in an automated fashion. Though we may have something in future, just don't think of this tool as solving these problems right now. Okay, so that's kind of a little bit about here and now, and then tomorrow, and then of course, like what we're not doing. What I'm going to do first of all is just show you some kind of key examples on the capabilities of the features, so you understand how they're used and the types of questions that you can ask. I'm going to switch over to the demo system now. And so, as I mentioned here, this is information that is, it's synthetic, so it's not real. You may see some kind of names and ship names perhaps that look real or kind of reference something. It's purely coincidental, but do just bear in mind that as I ask these questions, the results I get are going to be kind of grounded in my kind of demo world and not in what you might expect to see in your own system. So I'm just scrolling down here. I'm in my Sedna system and we have the AI Assist feature available here. So if you have this turned on today, that's where you'll find it. And I'm just going to click that and it's going to open the chat window for me. So really, really simple. I'm straight into the chat window and this is where I can type anything. So if you remember what we spoke about those capabilities, this can search all of my emails. It can catch me up on anything I've missed. It can get me details about ships, their current positions or their characteristics. And it can also tell me how to use Sedna if I was going to ask any questions like that. So those are current capabilities. What I'm going to focus on quick is I just want to start with something basic. So I prepared some prompts already for this workshop. And this one is effectively, I've taken some time off, or maybe it's a Monday morning. I'm coming back to the desk and I need to be caught up on everything that I've missed. And so I can ask this question. I've just come back from a few days off. Catch me up on everything I've missed. But what I'm doing is I'm extending the prompt as well. I'm telling it how I want the information to be output. I think that's one of the key things here that we'll cover in this session is we can be very prescriptive about how we want the content to be output to us. So I'm telling it group by vessel, flag anything that's escalated, and tell me what I need to respond to before my 9 a.m. briefing call with the team. So I'm going to go and run that. And when I run that, you'll see what happens here is it goes off and it thinks a bit. And AI Assist will always tell you what it's doing, where it's going to find the information. And in this case, it's checking missed updates. So it's using our Catch Me Up feature, and it's telling you that here. And what that's doing is that's going off and it's going and looking at all of the messages that I've been tagged in. So any message that I might find in my following section, particularly those that are unread or have an unread comment. And you'll see it's nicely segmented them. It's split them up by the vessel as I've asked it to. And it's put them into these kind of priority sections as well. So immediate escalations here. So these are the things I need to take care of before that 9 a.m. meeting. It's giving me the breakdown by the ships. So I can easily go and see right here, okay, here's the summary. There's a new report with an ETA issue. I can click through to any of those messages and it takes me straight to the email. Or I can just keep going down. I can see everything else at a glance. All segmented nicely. And then I get this nice little summary at the bottom. So actions for my 9 a.m. briefing. So it tells me, basically where should I turn my attention to first? And then what should I take care of before I get to, chat with the team for our kind of morning call. And what I can do as well is you'll notice at the bottom of every single response we give you, we've got the view source messages. So of course I can click through to each of these individual ones to see single emails, but for every response we give you this ability to search for all of the messages that are in scope there. And you can see these are made up of emails that I've been tagged on that either have an unread status or an unread comment. I can click through. If I want to, I can minimize the chat at any time. And so I've got that all in the way there. So look, I've got my colleague there asking me if I can go and take care of this on a comment. And the chat's been able to kind of go and grab all those updates, reason with them, and put them in that priority order for me. So that's the first kind of capability that we have there, is like this ability for it to show us what we're working on or what we need to give attention to. Maybe if we've been away from the desk for the weekend or just for out for lunch or for the day. So that's the first kind of capability here, is a catch me up feature. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go and open a new chat and just show you something different now. So you'll see I've got this chat menu here as well that saves all of my historical chats. So if I wanted to, I could go back to any chat that I've written in the past, sorry, and I can create a new chat from here as well. So if I want to go and create a whole separate conversation, I can do that very quickly with this. And what I'm going to do now is another great feature and capability that the chat has is it's able to look at our correspondence. So the different kind of emails we've exchanged with particular counterparties. And I can then use that to kind of give me a summary of our latest relationship status, or maybe kind of the most recent emails we've exchanged with a particular person or company. So the next prompt I'm going to put in here is I have a call with, and put a person's name in here, Roberto Duran, in 20 minutes. Give me everything, recent correspondence, open issues, what they've pushed back on historically, tone of recent communications, and what I should watch out for. So if I'm going into a situation where I perhaps haven't been so close to the inbox, maybe I'm in a management role, rather than me kind of going and asking 10 of my team, what's the latest for this person, or maybe someone's out sick, or in a meeting and they can't give me that context, I can ask this question about this specific person or this specific company. And I can ask it to give me, it in a way that's going to, set me up for this call. So I'll run that prompt, and this will go off again. And you'll see what it's doing now in its thinking process is it's searching emails. And this is the second kind of main capability of the feature. Based on what I've typed in there, the tool will try and search for specific keywords, specific kind of correspondence we've had with that person, that counterparty, and then return results based on that. So it runs a search for maybe their name, maybe a few variations of their name. This is a really kind of key capability of the search tool, is it doesn't necessarily just search for what I put in. If it finds additional context, it will go off and run its own additional searches based on that if it thinks it's relevant to the rest of the prompt that I've given here. So as I scroll down here, you'll see it's given me some key points. And Roberto Duran in our test system is it's a name we use quite often. So you'll see it's quite rightly summarized. It's been active with many different companies here. It's possibly, a broker or something like that. But it then goes and segregates those answers into issues and patterns here for me. So we have, the first thing here is like some demurrage and detention disputes. So it identifies clearly that those are potentially very risky situations for me, and gives me, again, that ability to click through and see, particular kind of emails. But more importantly, what it's done is it's summarized where the pushback is, and also giving me a sense of their tone here. So, because I asked it to give me a kind of tone overview, it goes and gives me that context here. So I don't necessarily need to run through all of those emails to find it. And again, broken down here, but it gives me a nice summary here, what to watch out for, right? So if I'm going into this call with this person in 20 minutes, I know specifically the kind of issues we may have, or the problems they may raise. And that gives me like that confidence that I've got then to go in. And again, I've got the view source messages button. I can find all of those emails from that particular person or that company in order to go and kind of review myself if I need to for extra context.
Apologies, Rob. Can I interrupt you? We have some feedback that the viewers cannot see the window. If you can move it a little bit towards, I don't know, the middle of the screen.
Oh, of course, yeah. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Is that better?
Yeah, I can view it from my side. So if I get more feedback, I will let you know. Thank you.
Okay, no worries. Well, hopefully whoever's put that in bottom is still not visible. No problem. I'll go and raise that up a bit. Hopefully that improves things. I'll just zoom out a wee bit there as well. Cool. All right. Thank you for raising that feedback. Appreciate it. Okay. So I'm going to continue on this theme as well. I'm in the chat here and I'm looking obviously to get some kind of intelligence on a counterparty before I go into a call with them. But what I can also do, because I'm in the conversation already, I can continue that conversation. I can keep asking questions of what's happening. So this is a really key kind of superpower of these types of chats is once I have established the context, I can keep working on that because every subsequent message I send, I am able to then ask additional questions on top of, and that whole context is preserved. So what I'm now going to ask is I'm going to ask it to draft me an opening message for the call agenda. So, if I want this to help me kind of write something or prepare my thoughts, I can now go and ask the tool to, based on the context of what I've asked before, go and give me an output or something that helps me be kind of more prepared for my upcoming call. So there you see, it's given me like a very kind of long-winded, actual formal piece there. And what I can do from here as well is it's all of these responses I get, I can easily copy those in. So I could put that into like a Teams message if I was going to preface the call in a WhatsApp or a Teams. But I can also click to draft an email from any of these responses that it gives me. So this is kind of like a key feature we added because we know that you're one click away from an email at any time, whether that's the citation but also if you want to write the email. And so you'll see if I was going to then speak to this counterparty, give them kind of a heads up as to what we wanted to speak about, I could go into my composer here and see that it's dumped all of that nicely into the composer. And of course, I can go and tweak that to my heart's content as well. I can go and overtype that. I can put my own flavor on that if I want to. But what we can also do here is we can use our AI assist features in the composer. So I'm just going to select the text here, and you'll see as I do so, we've got this pop-up that jumps up here, and we have the ability to go and put a prompt in to tell it how we want to change the text, or we can use these what we call AI shortcuts here. And that gives us the option to go and summarize the content. So if we want to make it shorter, more snappy, if we want to maybe change the tone to be perhaps more direct, we can go and do that. And as we click on that, it goes and runs off, and it gives us a suggested change here. And I can review that, I can retry, I can go and reprompt it. And if I want to accept that, I just press insert, and you'll see that's trimmed that right down for me, made it much more direct and succinct. And effectively, it's helping me, cut down on these kind of like thought processes, these cycles I might go through and having to write something, get distracted and change it back. And all of that started from the chat, and it landed me straight in the composer on the back of that. So that's another kind of key use case that we can use here. And I'm going to go and do a couple more of these, and then we'll jump into our kind of prompt clinic pieces as well. Feel free to, if any of these are stoking any questions that you have, feel free to put those in the Q&A, and I'm happy to kind of make some time during the end to address those as well. So one of the other kind of key areas that we hear, in terms of user feedback is like, we want to kind of make sure we're mitigating risk, staying compliant with things like that. And a key risk that we might have is like demurrage or claims or anything like that in the shipping world. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go back to the main kind of inbox here, and I'm going to go back and start a new chat. And on this one, what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask it to give me kind of a summary of our exposure. So the prompt I'm running here is scan everything from the last 72 hours across all vessels, which voyages have potential demurrage exposure, which counterparties have unanswered messages older than 24 hours, and where are we most likely to get a claim in the next 7 days. So this is a bit more open-ended, this question. So we're asking it to do a much broader scan. We're not focusing on like what's useful to me. We're looking at what's kind of relevant to the kind of the whole inbox. I'm just gonna have a look. I don't. It says filter. Sorry, I've got to change my my filtering here a little bit because the 72 hours isn't light. So we're going to say from scan everything. So scan recent emails across all vessels. And then we can go and run that prompt. So you see there, sometimes it might not give me the prompt that, the output that I'm expecting. And we spoke about kind of the time filters there as well. We're doing some work to improve those. But it's easy for us to just go and rephrase the prompt and change that so that it gives us kind of a bit more context as to what we're looking for. And it is possible for us to, as you see in here, like filter out things that are older than 24 hours, or specify kind of time horizons. So the chat is pretty good at understanding like historical and also future contexts. But like I mentioned there, we've got some improvements coming to make that much more precise using the Sedna date searches as well. So you'll see here, a great kind of output. It's gone and automatically kind of classified everything for me. So we've got demurrage exposure here on these specific voyages. And you'll see that there's concerns around some delays here. I can again click through to the message. Interestingly, it says systemic issue, and this is probably because of our demo system as well, but it's highlighting trends. I've not asked it to kind of give me an analysis on trends. It's just gone off and done that for me effectively, so it's kind of highlighting something to me that might be a signal worth processing. And you'll see again, claims filed here. So we're getting dollar amounts here. And you'll remember I mentioned this is not a number crunching tool. The tool will go and grab you, details, facts and figures that it finds inside of the messages. But effectively, I must stress, like it will surface those, but please don't rely on this to calculate or to kind of do any maths and sums. You should always be checking your sources. So I'm going to click through, and then going and validating that the figures are accurate from there. So use this as a kind of a reference point, a kind of way to summarize the content, but always go and verify on the back of that as well. And again, unanswered messages. So it has the ability to understand when emails haven't been replied to as well. So if you have a scenario, maybe a time bar or something, where you want to make sure that you're not kind of leaving something without a reply, this is quite good at being able to understand if there is a reply context. And again, we've asked it for that kind of, what are our main risks in the 7 days? We can expect additional claims. If we had, a much more kind of active representative inbox, we would be able to get a much more kind of specific, breakdown of where our exposures or risks may be from there. But this is a really good one for you to test in your own kind of settings as well. Okay, so that's kind of the basis of the different capabilities there. I do want to kind of move back into some of the questions that you folks have asked, and we have some coming in, but do feel free to add more in the Q&A. I'm just going to recap the prompting principles here, because this is really the key, to your success with these features, is be specific. Okay, so you notice that the more specific I was, the better the responses were. These tools are really great at kind of serving you well. So if you say things like the last 48 hours or emails, don't just say show me recent emails, say show me recent emails about this vessel from the last 48 hours. That gives a much better chance of kind of a much more succinct response. The second one here is, as I mentioned, layer the questions. So you can start broad, so we were saying, if we're looking at a specific kind of response from the chat, you can then ask additional questions. Well, what were the unresolved items from that summary? It understands all of the context of the conversation you've had previously, so that it can then, rephrase that or put that in a different context for you. Or maybe you could say, prioritize this list. So it's giving you a list. You could say prioritize from the most to least urgent. So it's able to kind of rework the responses it gives based on what you need it to do. And then finally, tell it what you need it for. So when you give context to an LLM like this, and by the way, this is it's using Anthropic's Claude under the hood. So when you provide context to these LLMs, they're really good at understanding that context and changing the whole kind of response structure based on that. So if you say something like, I'm preparing for a negotiation, or this is for a leadership update, that can actually, really dramatically change how it outputs the information based on what you're going to use it for. So I'd highly recommend kind of being specific about the use case of the data as well. Okay, so this is going to be the more fun bit, I think. We're going to go and look at some of these prompts that came in, and I will respect the kind of anonymity of the folks who requested that we didn't use theirs specifically. So I've made some kind of more generic kind of prompts here that we can walk through. We've maybe kind of already done, I'd say, that the outstanding claims one. I might jump into some of the other ones in the interest of time and make sure that we've got some space for Q&A as well. So on that claims one, you can see how that worked quite nicely when we put in the last prompt. You can go and, this was the kind of question from one of the submitters: find emails requiring immediate attention due to non-settled claim. So again, that's something where it can understand the context of urgency, but also if there's no replies, if there's nothing else in the chain, it can then use that as an indicator to say that, hey, maybe this claim is still outstanding, hasn't been settled yet. So that's actually a really good one to put in. I'm going to go and jump into this voyage instruction generation one because I thought this was a really interesting one. This kind of helps us take two sides of the context. We can look at like the content of email, but also we can use that to then go and create some email from it. So I'm going to close the chat here. I'm going to jump into like a different inbox. I'll go into like this chartering inbox here. And you'll see we have like a bunch of recaps in this mailbox here, all of them kind of in their own special formats as we well know them. And I'm going to go and look at this one here. And let's say that we have this recap that's been sent over from our commercial team into an ops context, and we need to start issuing, voyage instructions on the back of that. I'm going to take a prompt here, and I'm going to say generate the TCN voyage charter instructions from here. So I'll open the assist. And again, I've got this window open now. Open a new chat. I'm pasting a prompt in here that I made in advance. But what I'm asking is generate TC and voyage charter instructions. And I'm asking it to do it for this particular vessel here, so Troodos Oak. But also, I've specifically pointed it to a message ID. So the chat understands the context of your emails as well. So if you just want to be precise, it's very easy to just copy paste the message ID and you can feed that into the chat as well, and it will understand how to fetch that. So I'm going to go and run that now. It's going to go and do its thing where it fetches the email message, but it's telling you here it's getting that specific email. So you know that it's working from the message that you want it to do. And at this stage, it's going to go and create its own kind of generic instructions. So this isn't based on a template at this time, but I did want to kind of illustrate this capability that, the tool can output this information into, a pretty highly structured format effectively that you can use. We are looking at the capability of maybe adding support for templates as well. So maybe we could say, for this particular email, generate the charter instructions for the voyage using this specific template. That's maybe a future kind of iteration. But I wanted to show right now that we can output these capabilities here. And I'm going to say, okay, that looks great to me. So draft me an email for the voyage instructions. And I'll just run that through. And then what that'll do is that will just break out the voyage instructions, and it'll generate me kind of an email template, again, based on its own kind of, the grounding that we've given it in maritime, but also its own kind of capabilities and how it wants to structure the information. And again, I will use this capability to draft the email from here. So this is kind of like a place I can refine and hone this. If I wanted to go and, put in some information about a particular clause in the charter party, or if I had some different cost information, I could go and tweak that in the chat context. And as soon as I'm ready, I could click the draft email button here, and I'll minimize that down. I have it available if I need to use it. So I'm in the context of the composer here. I can go and modify how I need to. I can go and remove any of the superfluous bits I don't need, add the subject, add a sender in here if I need to, and all those kind of things. And then what I can do again is I'm able to kind of do what I want in terms of the content, but it might be that, this format is not doing it for me. Maybe I have a template, but actually maybe there's just something I can do to make this, a bit more kind of easier to read. I can go and ask the AI here to generate this as a table. So instead of it giving me these bullet points, actually I'm saying, you know what, like it's going to be better with all of this information in table format. It's going to be easier to scan, and maybe that's going to look a bit better, to our counterparties as well. And you'll see here, it's gone and nicely kind of segmented that into a table. I can press insert, and it's going to put all that in here. So a little bit easier to kind of read. I can resize that. I can, change that how I want to. And again, the AI's just helped me get there a bit quicker rather than kind of, spending additional time in trying to reformat these things. And the capabilities of this AI as well, really, really kind of impressive. You can translate in here. I've showed you the kind of the change of the tone. But if you wanted to very, simply translate to a different language, we have some quick capabilities available there. But you can imagine how useful that might be if you're dealing with kind of an agent in a, a lesser known port whose English might not be so great. You can go and easily kind of translate some things there. Of course, you want to check the accuracy of those translations first, but these might be capabilities that kind of help you out there. And maybe before I, send this email, again, I can use this. I've got the floating orb here. I can use the context of the assistant to help me kind of validate things. So actually, maybe I just want to check, what is the current position of that vessel, right? And what will happen is now I'm asking, this question. It's going to go and like say, well, I know that that's a vessel because we have that like grounded data set of the vessel. And effectively, then you'll see here, it then thought, well, do you know what? The best place for me to get the current position of the vessel is from the Lloyd's List Intelligence AIS position list, real-time kind of position. And what that's done is it's gone off and grabbed it, and it's found the information here, and it's given me some a summary on that. And I could ask more questions about this. I could even ask questions about like, can it make this particular region if kind of steaming at this particular speed. Again, those are things you wouldn't necessarily want to kind of like trust this to make decisions on exclusively, but they can be good kind of indicative sense checkers for you. And we will add additional support for tools like the distance tables that we have and things like that. So you will expect these tools to grow. But I just wanted to point out that in the context of what I'm doing, I'm able to go and use this as kind of a way to go and double check some information from different sources as well. So that was one of the kind of the first prompts that I thought was great. Hopefully, if whoever submitted that was on the call, you recognized like what I did with it, and I hope that kind of answered your question, well enough. I'm going to also look at this handover one because I think someone was interested in seeing kind of how we can do handovers. Sounds like a handover is a pretty kind of laborious and tricky thing right now. You have all the information in your inbox already. So I'm going to go and prepare a quick handover kind of capability that you'll see here. So again, I'll exit out of the assist. I'll delete this message because I'm not going to send that one. And I'm back to my kind of main inbox now. I'm going to open the assist tool again. And I'm going to ask, I'm going on leave. Can you please prepare a handover for the Chem Ranger, the MV Handy, and the Pacific Endeavour? And if you're eagle-eyed and you're scanning down my list, you'll see those are the ones. They're my vessels there, the Handy, and then there's an Endeavour down there. And so I'm going to go and send that in. And what's going to happen again, this will go off and run searches for all of those emails. And I've not been super specific here, by the way. I'm kind of leaving it to its own devices so we can kind of see the output. I could go and say only focus on things from the last, week, or only, exclude everything in the last kind of month or so. Now, something I really want to point out here as well is I misspelled this vessel name, Pacific Endeavour, and it was trying to find it here. It's telling you, let me search for Pacific Endeavour using different variations. And it kind of realized, you know what, like I've got that wrong. And it corrected the vessel name for me here to the Pacific Endeavour with no U. So it's a nice different spelling. And it's now gone and pulled all of that information. So it's broken that into the Chem Ranger, given a nice little bullet point summary here, the Handy there, and then it's gone and found that Pacific Endeavour, even though I misspelled the name. So that's one of the kind of key capabilities that we have, is because we understand like the vessel name taxonomy, and we're able to kind of understand, well, when you're asking this about this specific word, is it Houston the port, is it Houston the city, is it Houston the vessel? The context that we've given to this feature allows us to very, very quickly determine that and make the right call. And then you'll see I've got a nice kind of handover prep for me here. So I know that this was definitely one of the ones that when we kind of show folks out on the road the capabilities of the tool and what practical use cases, we know that this is one that takes a lot of time, typically if you are going away. And this one is a way that you can kind of expedite that capability. I don't know, we maybe have time for one more quick one, but I do want to leave some room for questions. Gina, do we have a few questions that have trickled in?
No, you've answered the question that was saying.
Excellent. Cool. All right. Well, what I'll do is I'm going to I'll focus on the last one, which is like a historical summary, because this was a really good apologies. This was a really good example of how we can look at the history, right? And actually, I've got a better example here. I've got one for a particular vessel name that I'll just pull in from my prompt list. And by the way, we are looking to add a capability to pin your favorite prompts. So this is another piece of feedback that came in. There are certain things that users of this tool, they're using like a very similar kind of workflow. They come in the morning, or they're using the tool throughout the day for something very specific. So we're adding a feature to be able to kind of pin your favorite prompts as well. But this last one, this focuses on running something across like a period of time, so a year, for example. So show me departure reports for Anna between 1st of Jan 2025 and 2026. So we're giving it like a date range here. And what I'm going to do, I need to preface this by saying this demo system, it won't have many departure reports in it, right? So I don't expect the results here to be, super, super impressive. But more what I want to demonstrate is the context of us giving, a specific thing for a given kind of entity and then a time range here. And you'll see how the capability search is. I think that, like I mentioned here, this one might, we don't have any actual departure reports in here. I could specify a different time period, for example, but I just wanted to point out that this thing is capable of kind of looking across your entire email history and can go really, really far back if you needed to on that one. I see we've got a couple of things in chat coming in, so I'll answer a couple of these questions quickly now. When do you expect our assistant to be able to read attachments? Really good question. That's something we're working on right now. So I don't want to put like a prescriptive timeline on that right now, but I would say we know how important that is to everybody and something we're very keenly focused on. I'd expect by sort of late Q2, early Q3. We'd have some kind of initial features around attachments and reading the content there. Another question here, would there be any talking points on MCP? Unfortunately, not for now. MCP is a fantastic subject, though, as well. This is more focused around the AI assist features. What I will say is there is some support articles on MCP. So if you did want to connect your own kind of tools to Sedna's email via the MCP server, we have a capability to do that. The capabilities are similar here, but like I mentioned at the start, it's a bit different. It doesn't have all of that kind of ingrained content and context into it, but the capabilities are there. So if you are interested in MCP, do feel free to follow up with us after this call. Reach out to support; they'll be able to point you in the right direction on how to set that up. Are there
Thanks.
any other questions?
Yeah, we have one more about what
Sure.
model we use for the AI,
Oh,
which is
yeah,
a good
really good
question.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I will say that this is subject to change. So we use Anthropic's Claude Sonnet 4 at the minute for this chat. In our kind of AI infrastructure, we've made it so that we can kind of selectively test and evaluate different frontier models. So we effectively kind of have our proprietary skills on top of these frontier models, but we've made it so that we can swap those out as well. So we're constantly evaluating what performs best at applying tags, what performs best at searching your email inbox, what performs best at extracting kind of key data from emails. At the minute, we're using, like I say, the Claude products. There's a mixture of Sonnet and also Haiku. And then that may be subject to change in the future based on evaluations, though. But we'll always kind of make sure that you have knowledge of and communication about wherever your information is kind of hosted or what region it's being processed in. We're very transparent about that.
Thank you, Rob. There's
Right.
nothing else actually. Yeah, that was really useful. It's always impressive to see, the value we get, not just in AI, but actually, the information we already have. Thank you. We don't have any other questions. Anything else you'd like to add before we end for the day?
Okay. Yeah, just want to say thanks to everyone for the time for joining on. I tried to cover as much ground as possible in these 45 minutes, but you'll see we really kind of just scratched the surface there. I'd recommend, if you're new to AI Assist, you're trialing it out, go and have a go, try these things. It's available, it's there for you. Go and see what you can do with it. Pick a workflow. Use it in anger for a week, and tell us what you like, tell us what you don't. As I mentioned before, we're building this based on the feedback we get. And another key point, the context is key. So like if you don't get what you need, there is a bit of trial and error in learning these tools. So you narrow it down, add some more context, rephrase it. It will kind of reward you with additional kind of outputs if you're more specific there. And similarly, as I mentioned, if you're stuck or struggling or you're not sure how to get this thing working, just talk to us. We're more than happy to help. We know that these are relatively new features. We know that there's a very fast evolving and changing landscape. in terms of AI at the minute. We want to be your kind of partners on this. We're not just trying to, push a feature and hope that you use it. We really want this to be something that is valuable and useful to you, when you're using the product. So let us know where you're struggling, and also what you'd like to see changing. We're very happy to kind of hear on those things. And if you like what you saw as well, if you're not using AI Assist, if you want to, drop us an email, sales@sedna.com. Your kind of your CSMs, your A's will be able to pick up with you, and see if we can get you into a trial there, and give you some more details.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rob. This one last question, if you want to take it.
Sure.
Can AI check in specific searches or only in the main inbox?
Oh, that's a really good question. And I'll answer the question in two ways. So the AI can run any kind of combination of search that you could think of. So if you ask it a question, it will try and run a search in Sedna, to answer that question as thoroughly as possible for you. I think maybe where you're going with that one is like if you have like saved searches or live searches, could it run or answer the questions within the context of that search? And that is an area we're kind of actively exploring. I think there's a lot of potential within that. But right now, you will get very similar results by asking pretty, concise questions. But just to be super clear, it's not running those in the context of your existing saved and live searches. However, that's an area we would like to kind of improve upon. So watch this space.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Pleasure.
We wish you a good day.
Thank you, everyone. Take good care.
Bye.